In tonight's Ask Anthony, I've received emails and phone calls from many of you raising concerns about Jacksonville-based Lickety-Split AC Plumbing and Electric. On social media, Facebook groups dedicated to complaints have attracted thousands of members. Lickety-Split is an advertiser on the stations of First Coast News, and we point this out to be transparent and remind you advertisers don't influence our reporting. According to the company, it has served more than 46,000 customers in Northeast Florida in the past 3 years. But we spoke with 3 customers who alleged they were sold expensive repairs they didn't need, charged thousands for work that failed to solve the problem, and struggled to get answers afterward. So tonight, we're taking a closer look.
You got one mad woman on your hands right now.
In January, Rita Robs says what started as a simple plumbing problem turned into a costly nightmare.
The original problem was my gray water tank on this side. I have 3 bathrooms in my house. So it runs that bathroom, it runs the kitchen, this gray water tank, and it runs the wash machine. That's it. It was bubbling up out of the ground.
Robs says she told her husband to call their regular plumbing company. Instead, he contacted Lickety-Split.
When I came home and I found out $15,400 was gone out of the account, I asked what for, and I pulled up the invoice. Very confusing. They dug up my whole yard.
The invoice's description of work lists multiple possible repairs, but doesn't clearly identify the specific work tied to the charge. Months later, she says the problem still isn't fixed.
I got more water flowing out now than I've ever had before.
After we interviewed Robs, according to Lickety-Split, the contracted work was completed and the matter was resolved. They don't admit to any liability or fault. However, Robs says she had to hire another company to finish the job. Her complaint comes as the Better Business Bureau says it has identified a pattern of complaints involving sales and billing concerns against the company, posting this notice on its website. According to BBB records, Lickety-Split customers have alleged they were told additional costly services were necessary, only to later learn some repairs may not have been needed. Other complaints allege customers were asked to sign documents electronically on tablets without receiving copies of contracts or paperwork. Lickety-Split disputes those concerns with the BBB, saying customers review and approve pricing and sign documents before any work begins. The company maintains an A- rating on the BBB's website, with a note under the rating saying it is due to the length of time it takes for the company to respond to complaints. The BBB says it has received 129 complaints since 2023 involving the company and revoked its accreditation in 2025, citing what it considers a high volume of complaints. I contacted the Florida Attorney General's office, which confirmed it has received at least 55 complaints involving Lickety-Split. The company strongly disputes allegations made by customers and says complaint numbers should be viewed in the context of the tens of thousands of customers it serves. Would you recommend this company to anyone?
Well, based on my opinion, I wouldn't recommend them to anybody.
Greg Melish filed one of those complaints with the state. He says he called the company during an emergency leak at his rental property in St. Johns County after water leaked from an upstairs bathroom into the ceiling below.
So I called up Lickety-Split, and they sent somebody over here, and they charged me like $99 to look at it.
Melish says he didn't have an issue paying the $99 service fee, but it soon turned into almost $6,000 for plumbing and drywall repairs. According to his contract, Lickety-Split would replace a 40-foot section of the branch drain line in the master bathroom and would be responsible for all drywall damages.
They told me the old contractor did the work on the plumbing, did a terrible job, and this is what they needed to change out. They changed out about 53 inches going back that way and maybe a foot of vertical. That's all they changed, but they charged me for 40, and they told me 40 feet of PVC pipe.
Melish says the problem was never fully repaired, and he ultimately fixed the issue himself.
And that's the only thing I had to do to fix the leak, was tighten those 3 bolts with my own wrench.
He says he called the company to get answers.
I called their office up, and I says, can you break down this cost for me? And I said, what's the material versus labor cost? Well, we don't do that. And I said, okay, well, tell me how much of my roof you have to rip out, how much drywall has to be replaced, Well, we don't do that. I said, well, how did you do an estimate? Well, we don't do that.
The company says it moved to dismiss his complaint and offered him his money back. Melish says he refused because accepting it meant he couldn't say a word about what happened to him or talk to reporters like me. He gave me a copy of the document that includes a non-disparagement clause. In another case, a lawsuit was filed in Duval County on May 27th on behalf of an 86-year-old woman, Sheila Toney, living on a fixed income. According to the lawsuit, Toney contacted Lickety-Split in late April, believing technicians were coming to repair a thermostat issue. Instead, the lawsuit alleges technicians removed and dismantled her entire HVAC system while she remained downstairs watching television without informing her of what they were doing. The lawsuit further alleges technicians later presented her with an iPad and had her electronically sign documents she did not understand, including financing paperwork for more than $36,000 over 20 years. According to the lawsuit, Toney did get a new HVAC unit installed, but an independent inspector later found the work wasn't fully completed. Toney's daughter says she discovered the loan documents days later and found that Social Security and income information had been entered into the financing application, information she says her mother never provided. As of this report, Lickety-Split has not been served with the lawsuit or filed a response in court. Attorneys for the company say they dispute the allegations and will move to dismiss the case that they view as improper, inflammatory, and unsupported.
Let's talk about the price that they quoted you all for this repair, for this job. How much?
It was almost $37,000.
Yeah.
$37,000.
In another situation, David and Kristen McCoys say what began as a simple service call about their breaker box quickly shifted to their air conditioning system.
And the next thing we know, he's bringing out a ladder, going up in our attic, going through the ductwork. And he checked the AC unit out back. He checked our thermostat. He was saying that it was an emergency. It was a high health concern.
Yes.
The McCoys say technicians then presented a proposal totaling nearly $37,000 for a new AC system and upgrades. According to the family, while financing arrangements were being discussed with Kristen's mother, whose name was on the property, technicians allegedly began dismantling portions of the home's existing air conditioning system.
He tore it apart, even though it was working fine when he showed up.
The McCoys say they later tried to cancel the deal and asked for their equipment back.
They refused to return any of our equipment. I wanted them to come just back out and put what they took back in.
And they ended up putting a lien on the home, correct?
They absolutely did.
The McCoys say the lien was eventually removed from the home. Lickety-Split says they had started work when the McCoys canceled and decided not to enforce the company's contractual rights. The McCoys say the lien was eventually removed from the home. But for these three homeowners, the frustration goes beyond money.
I don't think it's fair what they're doing to people. I
just don't want to see someone else get hurt. I mean, it's emotional.
The perfect resolution for me is they pay me the money that they owe me.
They're not ever welcome on my property until they give me a full refund check, $15,400. I want my money back.
So, after I began asking questions, Rita Robs received a refund. Greg Melish successfully disputed the charge with his credit card company and got his money back. I also repeatedly requested an on-camera interview with Lickety-Split owner Thomas Noland. Noland and his wife, Lindsay, who is involved in the company's day-to-day operations, agreed to meet with me. We spent nearly 2 hours discussing the complaints during an off-the-record conversation. They later agreed to an on-camera interview, but the day before it was scheduled, their attorney notified us they would not participate and requested additional details about our reporting. We provided those details. We again requested an on-camera interview on Monday. Noland initially agreed, but about an hour before the scheduled interview, he canceled. In a text message, Noland said the company's legal team advised against participating and that they believed this story was severely one-sided. In a 6-page response from its attorney, Lickety-Split said many of its service calls involve urgent plumbing, air conditioning, and electrical emergencies, often during stressful situations for customers. The company said it investigates and addresses customer concerns when they're reported. We'll have more on this story on our website, firstcoastnews.com, under the Ask Anthony section, including what to look for before hiring an HVAC company and your options if something goes wrong. Remember, you can always email me at askanthony@firstcoastnews.com.